With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. So, the Redskins make a trade. Not the one you were probably expecting nor looking for. Now, we talked about big Redskins news. If something happened, I'd be back. Ta-da! Here I am. Surprise! But it's not the trade we talked about potentially happening yesterday and Quentin Dunbar being moved. It's not the Trent Williams trade. It's a quarterback trade. Now, nope, not Cam Newton, not that Carolina quarterback, but another one. Yes, Kyle Allen. The one I told you the Redskins were going to go and get about a month and a half ago. And you guys said, nope, Kyle Allen re-signed with Carolina. I said, they just tendered him. All that means is the Redskins are going to have to give them a pick. That's it. Said, he's not going anywhere. I said, okay, we'll see about that. It makes too much sense on too many fronts. Before we dive knee deep into the trade, though, I want to get rid of some quick, unrelated news before I forget. The Redskins made some moves today, releasing a few players, all of them defensive backs. Cody Sensabaugh, Breon Borders, some other guys that are really not that big of a deal. Kayvon Webster. But the big name in there, if they tried to bury the lead, but the big name in there is Monte Nicholson. Now, I told you, I don't think this organization, this new regime, is a fan of Monte Nicholson. And it may not just be the play on the field. I think there are some things off the field that have rubbed people the wrong way as well. Because you could excuse some of the things that happened on the field by saying, you know what? We're going to give him a chance to come to camp and compete, and we'll see what he has in this new scheme. All right? But there's some off-the-field issues, too, that have belabored the point that maybe this is the guy that we want moving forward on this roster in this organization, which is why I've said the same thing about Reuben Foster. There are some things there that may rub some people, including Ron Rivera, the wrong way. We'll see. Obviously, health will be a huge concern there. But if you look at the tea leaves, they signed Sean Davis, and not too long thereafter, Monte Nicholson and a bunch of other guys are released. You look at the linebacker position, they've been doing an awful lot of work at linebacker. Now, not all of these guys they've signed have been inside backers. As a matter of fact, only one of them is an inside backer, and he's a backup in our estimation in John Bostic. But everybody else, you never know. We'll see what happens. They may be playing around with different positions. Cole Holcomb, they could view as an inside backer for all we know. I think he's more of a weak side backer myself, but Thomas Davis is also a weak side backer. They can't put 18 linebackers on the field, but I digress. You know I can go off on a tangent, non sequitur, and be totally in a different lane than what we came to do. So let's get back on course and talk about the trade the Redskins made, swapping a 5th-round selection in the 2020 draft for the rights to Carolina Panthers quarterback Kyle Allen. So I told you guys a while back that I thought this was going to be the move. It made too much sense for the Redskins not to do this. And I've always told you guys this and explained this to you numerous times, including on the podcast, that when you're making a regime change, when you're bringing in, let's not even talk about a regime change. Let's just dumb it down to when you change offensive coordinators. What does that guy want to do 9 times out of 10? He wants to bring along a guy with him that knows the system. It's so much easier to implement your scheme when there's a quarterback that already knows it, because if the quarterback knows it, he can teach it to everybody else. That guy, above all else, needs to know what the hell is going on so that if somebody's lining up in the wrong spot, he can get everybody situated. If the language is tough for somebody, the quarterback should know it like a back of his hand, and he has to know everybody's responsibility on the play. So again, it's just easier when there's a guy there that knows the system. Kyle Allen knows Scott Turner's system, so it makes it that much easier to teach it to everybody else. But that's on a lower level. That's on a lower scale, okay? Because we may not have OTAs and training camps and mini camps and all that stuff. We may not have a lot of that stuff this year. Most of that stuff is going to be wiped out. OTAs are already dead. Mini camps probably not going to happen. Training camp may be abbreviated. So forget about that. The biggest issue here, the reason why I think the Redskins made this move is, one, comfort. All right, yes, Kyle Allen is very comfortable with Scott Turner, very comfortable with Ron Rivera. They know this guy. They know what he's capable of. He's young, continuing with that young movement that I talked about. He's only got 1 year left on his deal. He's only making over $640,000. So it's not like this guy's making a ton of money. There isn't a ton of long-term guarantee here. All right? Kind of going in line with what we've talked about. All right? So that's another thing. But the biggest thing is the fact that here's a guy that if the Redskins were to not have, and you know what? It's two. They're like co-leaders in the clubhouse. If the Redskins were to have a situation where there's no OTAs, no minis, training camp is abbreviated, and they get to camp and they don't have a ton of time and they get like one preseason game or two maybe, and Dwayne Haskins is lost. And I don't think that's going to happen. But for the sake of this argument, let's just say that it does. He gets there and this is just tough for him to pick up. And he's struggling, and they're having trouble getting in and out of the huddle with the kind of crispness that you need. And they can't go into week one feeling like we can't even call, 30% of the playbook right now because Dwayne is struggling. Obviously, there are ways to combat that. There's the wristband. There's different things you can do. You can pick out a certain amount of plays that he's comfortable with, yada, yada, yada. But again, for the sake of this discussion, we'll just go with the premise that he doesn't really pick it up quickly. And because of the lack of OTAs and minis and all of the extra exposure he would have had in the system that would have made him more comfortable, he is a little bit behind schedule. You have a guy like Kyle Allen that if Dwayne needs another week or two after the season gets underway to get really comfortable, Kyle Allen's the guy that can start for you those first couple of weeks. Dwayne is then ready. You slide him in and you keep it moving. That's not going to happen. I don't anticipate that happening. I'm just throwing that out there. That's another reason there. You want a guy that's comfortable in your system in case something were to happen to Dwayne. We talked about this. Dwayne showed us last year he has no problems getting an ankle injury and missing a quarter, missing a half, or even missing a game or two. All right, he has no problem spraining his knee. All right, so we've seen Dwayne go down, and we need a guy that can step in for a quarter, a half, a game, or two if need be. And I feel really confident that Kyle Allen, and he showed last year, you don't want Kyle Allen for 16, all right? I'm not a huge Kyle Allen fan in terms of, 16 game schedule, but Kyle Allen for 3 or 4 weeks, not the worst thing in the world. We saw that last year. You put some subpar to inferior competition in front of him, he'll light him up. I'm cool with that. It's when you start saying, hey, Kyle, man, we might need you for another month. Now all of a sudden that 2-0 record starts to shift towards 2-4, 3-3, which is fine. Again, 3-3, you steadied the ship. But I prefer to have my Kyle Allen in spurts, limited doses, preferably never to see him on the field. That's any backup in this league. I was on Twitter and my man Twan hit me up, was like, man, I don't love this move. I don't hate it. But, I'm like, dude, it's a backup. I could really care less. The Redskins fans up in arms. We gave up a 5th round pick for Kyle Allen. I cannot believe this. Who gives a shit? It's a backup quarterback. Just be thankful they didn't do something stupid like trade for Cam Newton. All right? Let's be thankful they didn't go out and sign Joe Flacco. They did what they were supposed to do. Now, the means of which they did it, a little unconventional by trading for him, but who cares? It's a backup quarterback. We needed one. What this also tells me is that Alex Smith not going to play football. Go figure. No surprise. We've been saying this the entire time. It's a nice story. I'm glad that he's walking and possibly running again. His quality of life has been improved. It's back to where it needs to be for him to be able to enjoy his kids growing up. That's what I want to know. That's what I'm excited about. But the fact of the matter is, he should never set foot in a competitive football game again. A professional tackle football game, that is. So this tells me that they're not confident that Alex Smith is going to be ready to play, and nor should they be, because he should never play again, period. And the other co-lead, the other co-reason why this is a big deal, why it needed to happen, is because Alex Smith is making $21 million this year. You got to pay a backup quarterback. You don't have a ton of money to pay a backup quarterback. All right? This guy's making less than $1 million. He's making less than $700,000. Okay? That's right up your alley. You combine Dwayne's salary with Alex's salary, and that's your starting quarterback salary right there. You don't need to add in another salary that's you're paying. So this takes a little bit of that off. You're not paying a bunch of money for a guy to come in here and be a competent backup for you. So to me, it's a win for the Redskins in that department. Would I have liked to have kept my 5th round pick? Sure. All right. Do I want the Redskins to go into the draft with 6 picks? No. Okay. And I don't anticipate they will. They understand that they're going to gain draft capital from trading Dunny, from trading Trent Williams, and they're going to end up with 7, 8, possibly 9 picks before it's all said and done. And, it gets a little scary. You know what I mean? This gets a little scary, and I hate to introduce this to you, but it got me to thinking, because I said, what if they don't trade Dunny? What if they don't trade Trent? You got 6 picks in this upcoming draft. 6. 1 in the 1st, no 2nd, 1 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, no 5th, no 6th, and 2 in the 7th. You know what's scary about that? Is that the only way you accumulate more picks is by trading back. What pick do the Redskins have that would net them 3 or 4 additional picks? Not necessarily all in this year's draft, but probably 3 more in this year's draft and another 1 or 2 in next year's draft. It's not a tough one, but just in case some of you out there are having trouble with this one, let me help you. The number 2 overall pick would net them 3 additional picks this year and a couple maybe next year. That's scary to me. Okay, you don't start giving away draft picks unless you got something up your sleeve. Now, I'm going to contend that the wild card that they've got in their back pocket is Dunny and Trent Williams, and that they're going to net at least an additional pick from each of those players, if not more, which is going to lessen the blow, deaden the impact of not having a ton of picks as we sit here now. That's my assumption. We're about a month away from the draft. I'm getting nervous because now we've got 6 picks. And what do you do when you've got 6 picks? You start thinking of ways to get 7 and 8 and 9. And the Redskins have an easy path to 8 or 9 in this draft. Scares me, man. It's scary times, man. Really, really spooky, like shit you see in a movie. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. 6 picks gets me to thinking they know something. I'm a little nervous, man. I'm nervous. All right? I haven't been this nervous about this situation ever. So I'll be a lot more comfortable and at ease when they tell me, hey, we traded Dunny for a 4th and a 6th, and we traded Trent for 2 3s. And then I'll say, all right, I can relax and I can breathe. All right? But if you tell me didn't quite get anything done for Dunny, didn't quite get anything done for Trent, and we're sitting here with 6 picks going into the draft, I'm a little nervous. Just a little nervous. But we'll see what happens. Nonetheless, the Redskins have themselves a backup quarterback. It came at the expense of a 5th round pick. Honestly speaking, the 5th round pick is of no consequence to me. Sure, you get good football players sometimes in the 5th round, but more likely than not, more times than not, you're going to end up getting either a core special team contributor or a guy that doesn't really impact your football team and might not even make your roster, okay? 5th rounders tend to make your football team more times than not these days. There was once upon a time when a 5th rounder generally didn't make your roster. They tend to make your roster now, but they don't necessarily end up being impact players. I mean, the Matt Ioannidis's of the world are rare. They're few and far between. Don't act as if the Redskins every year go and pluck a fifth rounder that comes in and contributes right away, because that rarely happens, not just for the Redskins, but in this league. Fifth rounders generally don't turn out to be key contributors. So I'm not crying over spilt milk. It's a fifth round pick. Spare me for those of you out there up in arms that the Redskins gave up a fifth round pick, please. Okay, stop. You needed a backup quarterback. We've been talking about what are the Redskins going to do at backup quarterback. They solved the issue. Sure, it took a fifth round pick. You're not paying them a ton of money. It's a 1-year rental. If you like what you see next year, you can bring them back. It won't cost you a lot then either. I'm fine with what they did here. It was a necessary evil. And above all else, it puts to bed any of the Cam Newton discussion. And it also assures us that Dwayne is the guy, which is what I wanted, because I talked about the competition level for these potential quarterback options that the Redskins would be taking a look at. And I said, look, I don't know what Ron Rivera meant about very competitive competition. All right. But I do know this. If he's smart, and I think Daniel Snyder was like, hey, about the very competitive competition. And I'm just saying, I don't think Dan actually intervened here, but I know, honestly speaking, we didn't think, honestly, that they were going to bring somebody in here like a Jameis Winston or a Cam Newton. You couldn't have seriously thought that was even up for debate. There is no way that they were looking to ruffle any kind of feathers, nor bring any of the media fanfare and drama that bringing a former number 1 overall pick, each of those players were a number 1 overall draft pick in their respective drafts. One in 2011, the other, or was that, one in 2011 and the other in 2014. You couldn't possibly think that the Redskins would want to bring that kind of drama to DC. All right. No way. Not in Ron Rivera's first year. You got enough questions as it is. Last thing you need is a quarterback controversy. This puts that to bed. Kyle Allen is not going to beat out Dwayne Haskins for this job, nor is there even a competition at hand right now. This is Dwayne's job, and this kind of solidifies that. Now I turn my attention to the number 2 overall pick. If we don't get any compensation for Dunny or Trent prior to the draft, then I get worried, because then I feel like the Redskins could do something stupid that will have lasting ramifications on this roster. I know there are some of you out there that believe trading back is the smart thing to do, picking up as many picks as you can. Maybe that is the right thing to do, but I can't see it right now. My eyes are locked in on one guy and one guy alone, and unless the Redskins get that guy, it's going to be hard to convince me that we did the right thing. Now, if they do trade back, it's not going to be the end of the world. I'm going to be very disappointed, upset. I'm probably putting that mildly. I'm going to be pretty damn pissed if they move back. But it may actually be the right thing to do in the long run. You can't convince me of it, so you can save your breath. If you're one of those people, hear me out. If you start your comment off with "hear me out" about the number 2 pick, I'm not listening. Okay, I'm just telling you right now. If I read your comment and it starts off with about the number 2 pick, just hear me out. You lost me already. Okay, on to the next comment. I don't want to hear it. And you might have some valid points, and you might be absolutely 100% spot on. I don't want to hear it. I just want them to take Chase Young, and we'll figure everything else out later. Okay? That's kind of how I want to do this. All right? I just want to take Chase Young at number 2, and then I'll figure out everything else as we go. All right? Just do the right thing here. All right? And when you got 6 picks in the draft, you start thinking irrational, man. I was telling my girl earlier, I said, man, I went to work today, and I thought the weather was going to be right around 60. It's supposed to be like 55 or something like that. But, they told me 55 last week, and it ended up being 70. So I was like, we've been pretty warm. We've been on a hot streak lately. It's going to be warm today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dress so I don't have to take off a bunch of layers. So I kind of went to work half-stepping a bit. Man, I was cold today. You know what happened when I got cold? I started thinking irrational. I was like, man, maybe I should just go home. You can't go home. You got work to do. But it crossed my mind, and I sat there and contemplated it for about 2 whole minutes. man, I'm about to go home. I don't have to deal with this. I'll come back tomorrow. No, that's not the right thing to do. When you have 6 picks in the draft, you start thinking irrational. I just want the Redskins to think rationally about everything that they do. They've done a good job of that thus far. I ask that you continue to do that when concerning the number 2 pick. But I digress. Kyle Allen is now a Washington Redskin. He'll be the perfect backup for Dwayne Haskins. I love the move. I have no problems with them giving up a 5th round pick. He's not due a ton of money, so it fits right in with the cap situation of the quarterback position because Alex Smith is killing us with how much we're paying him. So to me, this makes sense all the way around. He knows Ron Rivera very well. He knows Scott Turner's system. It's a win-win, and to me, he's the perfect stopgap in case of a Dwayne Haskins injury. He can come in for 2 weeks, steady the ship, and then go back to the sidelines and be a great cheerleader. So I hopefully will never have to see this guy throw a pass for us in a game. But in the event that he does, I have confidence that he can come in for a week or two and not throw up all over himself. Now, if you asking him to go 6, 8, 10 weeks, now you got a problem on your hands. But that's just about any backup in this league. So we're not unique in that sense. So feel good about this. How about you guys? Leave it down in the comment section. How do you feel about the Redskins acquiring quarterback Kyle Allen from the Carolina Panthers for a 5th round draft pick in 2020, leaving the Redskins with only 6 picks in the 2020 NFL draft as it stands right now? That is subject to change. The Redskins make a move here, a move there, and all of a sudden they could be back up to 8, 9 picks in this draft. But as of right now, Redskins don't have a 2nd. They don't have a 5th. They don't have a 6th. They're sitting on 6 picks right now. Will the Redskins feel the need to do something very rash? We'll see. Leave it down in the comment section along with a like and a sub if you haven't already done so. I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. If anything else breaks, you know where to find me. But until then, remember, Wednesday night, we will be live, Redskins Report Live here on the Louie T Network. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys. Got a lot to discuss. Free agency has hit in a major way in addition to this trade, and maybe some other things will take place. Monte Nicholson released, talked about that briefly. We can talk about that more on Wednesday night. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys. In the meantime, leave it in the comment section. I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. We will reconvene on Wednesday. Have a good one.